It's important to vote this year because a lot is at stake.
And voting feels like my way to be able to bring about change.
This election gives American Muslims the opportunity to make a difference, as well as be part of the change.
Voting does bring about change. It's a right that you've been given, it's a privilege that we have, and it's something that we must exercise.
Remember, it's a privilege. This is the smallest thing you can do as a citizen, is to go out and vote.
In short, this election is unique and historic. In the midst of one of the worst pandemics of our times, coupled with an economic downturn,
I would encourage all of us who do have the right to vote, the citizenship, go vote. It is an obligation on you to do. It is not a matter of a choice.
Shape tomorrow
by voting today.
inaan codeeyo aad ayay muhiim igu tahay anaga dhanna muhiim ayay noo tahay qaas ahaan sanadkan oo aan ku jirno dhibaatooyin badan waxaa kaloo jirto marka aad codeynaysid waxaa laga yaabaa mashquul inaad tahay anaga dhan mashquul baan nahay ciyaal baan ma arkino wax baraynaa guryaha mashquul ku nahay laakiin waxaa jira waxyaabo na dhaafayo haddii aanan codkeena dhiibanin codkeena waa awood aan leenahay oo aan ku dooran doono hogaamiyayaashana hogaaminayo berito hadday ahaan lahayd bulshadeena iyo hadday ahaan lahayd federal level kaba marka waxaan ku boorin lahaa
you know most important thing is that I want people to know is like your responsibility is to go and vote. We'll worry about the results later, but right now our job is to go out there and make sure you vote. I know sometimes, as I said, the long may be longer or something, but believe me, when you get in there, and vote, it's worth it. So go out and vote and make a difference today.
صح maxaad u malaynaysaa natiijada inay ku dambaynayso
ما شاء الله si fiican bay ku dambaynaysaa boqolkiiba boqol
maxaad odhan lahayd dadka aan codayn maanta
dadka aan codayn waa inay codeeyaan oo waddanka jooga sharciga waa inay raacaan oo ay codeeyaan
ما شاء الله
waa ku qasban yihiinay barya maaha marka sidaasaan dadka kula talinayaa haddii ay Mareykan joogaan waa inay sharciga u hoggaansamaan فلو بهاي halkay soo tag xasan an casoobini wadanka weyn soo tilmay hadaad sawi
adeer xasan ma codaysay
waa codaydii
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله ما شاء الله
hayde dadka
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله ilaahay
waa inaad codkiina dhibataan
ما شاء الله dadka ummadda Soomaalida ay daawanayso
ummadda Soomaalida waxaan ku leenahay dhiibta codkiina dhiibta
ما شاء الله هذا الرئيس بدل وين عضينا
وين عضينا codkeena dhiibana
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. Dadweynaha naga daawanaya Somali TV kusoo dhawaada. Waxaan rabnaa maanta inaan ka hadalno waa maalintii la codeynayay. Today is election day in America. 2021. It's the off-year election, the non-even years. And I know in Minneapolis and St. Paul today, and in many other cities across the state, there is a very important election happening. I have with me former city of St. Paul council member Kasim Basuri, and also the director at Dawah Center. You saw him in the earlier video that we put out from 2020. Just reminding folks to vote. So for those who are joining us, thank you for joining us. We will be speaking both languages, a little bit Somali and English, so we'll be mixing it up. Kasim, I know you have to run. I just want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about the importance of this election and how critical it is for folks here in the Twin Cities, but also across the state, to show up and take part in the election.
Jelani, thank you for allowing me to join you and everyone else has been getting the vote out. It's really important that we as a community come out strong on an off year season to show that we are here. We are we want to be at the table. That we will voice our collective voice together and make sure that our community is at the table.
Absolutely. And you know, the city and government elections in Brooklyn Park, I think it came down to 2 votes or 3 votes. I mean, we're talking about you know, every vote matters and every vote counts. I just had a conversation earlier today. I was buying something at one of the stores, and I told him, "Did you vote today?" And he said, "No, I haven't voted yet." And he said, "Well, as soon as I finish my shift, then I can go vote." And I told him, you know, today your employer actually has to accommodate for you to go and vote while you're being paid, while you're on the clock. And a lot of people don't know. You know, we always come up with some excuses. So how critical it is for people to get out and not use that excuse or that the false understanding that going to my job is going to deny me from voting today. So I think one of the things that go ahead.
So it's really important, like you said, about the Brooklyn Park. Our friend Howley almost won the election and missed it by 1 or 2 votes. And I'm not going to speak for all of us. I'm not going to speak for all Africans. But we said, oh, he's got our vote. Everybody is voting for him. That was the sentiment. I was hearing from people in Brooklyn Park. My family lives there. Some of the people that we talked to said, hey, he has enough votes. Everybody is voting for him. He's got the governor endorsing him. It's not about endorsement. It's about us going out and voting in numbers to make sure that our candidate that we want to get elected gets elected. Our issue that we're fighting for, whether it be rental stabilization, whether it be police accountability, and everything that is on the table at this election, that we come out in numbers and vote and make sure that we do our part. Throughout the civil rights movement, people were dying to make sure that today you and I can vote. So it's our civil duty to go out and vote today.
Absolutely. And to that point, you know, there's just a lot of people that, you know, who you know, especially with these off elections, just don't see how important it is. The smaller the election is, the more the votes matter almost. You know, the more the decision makers are also in proximity. When you have your city council being voted on, that's the person who represents you in your own city. You know, the traffic light. You're talking about school board. That's the person who represents your child, who advocates on behalf of your child. You know, so elections are really important, but sometimes it's interesting. It's lopsided. You know, we get so excited about the large federal elections, and they're important and they're extremely important for our country. But with some people just don't value the local elections, and people don't also vote down. You know, you vote for the mayor and the city council, but you don't vote down to the person who's in charge of the tax easement or watershed district or, you know, other positions of power. So I think it's important that we do that. I know in Minnesota, we have a trend, a very positive trend, that many immigrants vote early. In Minneapolis, we saw almost 10% of the electorate vote already. So that's a great job for those folks. But today we have 90% still have yet to vote it. And I think very similar in St. Paul. Outside of early voting, today is a critical day. So what are your kind of, I guess, last thoughts or thoughts that you want to share with the community about some of the efforts of mobilizing folks to you know, to have their voice heard? And the interesting thing is actually even candidates will only really value individuals who get out to vote, because that data is public to them and they can access that and to be able to call them and text them. I know at CARE Minnesota, we have reached out to almost 40,000 people through text messages and over 7,000 to 8,000 people over the phone calls just in the past 2 weeks. So our team of volunteers and staff have been really on the front end of trying to do that. So if you can just speak to that a little bit about, is enough said about the importance of this day, but also just how important these small municipality races are.
It's very important in different areas like Egan, Eden Prairie. We have strong candidates who are there running, and we have a large community there. Most of the time, if we look at school board members, if we look at county commissioners, if we look at the different small municipalities that are there, that are the elections are going on right now, we say, oh, how come this is not happening for us? How come this is not happening for our community? And it's us to blame. If you look at who's at the table, it's not us at the table. It's not people that understands our concerns. It's not people that are listening to our concerns that are at the table. We have to do our part to make sure that those who step up, I want to say big ups and shout out to all the candidates out there who are people of color, indigenous, who stepped up to the table, who took that step, took time away from their family to campaign, to be a voice at the table for people of color and indigenous people. I want to say thank you for running today. I want to say thank you for stepping up to the table, because it's not easy. It's a lot of work. It's stressful. Always going out, door knocking, having volunteers to do work. But at the same time, if we don't give them our voice, if we don't go and vote today, you have up to 8 p.m. You can be in the line at 8 p.m. If you get off of work at 7:30, there's no excuse. Go to the poll. You can be in line at 8 o'clock and they cannot tell you can't vote. You are able to vote as long as you're in the line by 8 o'clock, and your vote counts. And as we talked about earlier in Brooklyn Park, it was only 2 votes that the brother lost to the election, to someone who does not understand the community in Brooklyn Park, who at the end of the day, it's our fault because we said, oh, he had enough votes, but it's everybody's vote counts. So we need to make sure that we get out the vote and make sure that we do our part.
Absolutely, and to that point, there's just a lot of I would say fear and also just carelessness to some extent. I have this flyer that I was sharing with people. Democracy, when you vote, you validate democracy. That if you don't vote, you're almost discrediting democracy. Democracy is a participatory system. You have to participate in it for it to work. And our communities, you're right, communities of color, particularly immigrants, low-income earners, and others, usually do not show up. And we are the ones that need the government to work to serve the needs of our community. The reason why, Jeff Bezos and the billionaires of this country don't pay taxes is because they figured out a way to make the government work for them and not work for us. And this is the reality in America. There's not just a middle class in America. There's also the working class in America. Usually it's the working class that's left behind. It's the people who are cleaning the offices, the people who are working at the factories, the people who are doing the jobs that are extremely difficult with low wages, who today, many of them think somehow that, oh, I can't, I have a second shift, I just dropped off my kids, I can't go, I got to show up to work. No, legally today, you can call your boss and tell him I'm going to vote and I will be there once I'm done voting, right? And you have that legal right. This is an important part of your democracy and this important right that you have. So, shaqaalaha dadka waliba shaqeynaya dad badan oo Soomaaliya waxa jira iraahda shaqadii baa u socdaa marka ma codeyn karo, shaqadii baa laga rabaa ma codeyn karo. Maraykanka qofka muwaadinka ah waxaa loo ogol yahay maalinta sida maanta oo kale la codeynayo inuu qofku qaadan karo fasax ka qaadan karo shaqada muddada intuu ku soo codeynayo oo walibana laguna qabaneen waqtigiisii nasashada ama waqtigiisii vacationka laga qaadeen caadina loo pay gareynayo. marka waa fursad weeyaan weliba dadka gaar ahaan warshadaha ka shaqeeya shaqooyinka adag ka shaqeeya waxa u malayn dadkaasi runtii cidhiidhi bayba ku jiraan shaqooyinkooga oo maalin hadday soo daahaan shaqa hadday kasoo yordaahaan waxaa laga yaabaa in waqtigoodii laga jarto laakiin maalinta codaynta la codaynayo waad qaadan kartaa fasax ilaa intaad soo codaynaysid haddii xitaa muddo dheer qaato codka intaad bixinaysid intaasoo dhan shaqaalaha meeshaad ka shaqaynaysa ayaa bixinaya mushaharka. Just a reminder in Somali that we have to utilize your rights on this day of election, that you don't have to take the day off. It is by law given the right that you can go and vote reasonably. And so it's important that that's not an excuse and that's not a barrier in getting out folks to vote. So, today, like I said, there are a couple of things that are very important. Obviously, the police discussion is very important in city Minneapolis particularly, but also I think talking a little bit about rent stabilization. I know this is a huge concern for us, and it doesn't solve the problem of really housing, but it's a step forward into addressing some of these particular issues. And I think for our community in general, we want people to have home ownership. That's what we want people to have. We want home ownership for people. We don't want to be renters forever. And I think that is something that we want to talk about. But these issues are at the plate, and if you don't show up and you don't vote on your principles or your understanding of these issues, then you're going to be caught in a position where you are going to have to live with new decisions, new laws, and some people may not realize this until the day post-election, that this entire ballot initiatives were made decision, just like you said earlier with the Brooklyn Park, with the 1 or 2 votes.
So community waxaa sheegayna intii oo odayaan codkani just hal qof leh don't leave the vote with just marking for that one candidate that you're interested in. There are multiple questions on each ballot in Minneapolis and St. Paul. In every city has at least a school board measure that's on there, either supporting an increase in levy for your school district, or in St. Paul, depending on, there's 4 candidates for school board members. And these 4 candidates, if you need to do your homework, some of them won't actually close some of the schools that are proposed by the superintendent to close next year. And some of these schools are really important to our community. And if you choose a candidate that wants to close these schools, then or if you don't choose the candidate that doesn't want to close these schools, then vice versa, you can miss out in your child's school being closed, and you might have to bus your student or your child to the other side of the city because there's no more elementary school next to your house anymore, because the school district, the board members that you voted in, are in favor of closing these schools. So it's really important that we vote, and there's a lot at stake today. In every city, in St. Paul, Minneapolis, the ballot measures for rental stabilization. Again, do your homework. There are yes and no questions in both cities. Like Jelani said, the measures are not perfect, but they bring stabilization to rents that are going really crazy high in recent years. And we see that a 1-bedroom that used to cost $500 just 3-4 years ago now costs $800-900, multiplying in large numbers, going up 40 to 60% in some cities, the rental prices. So it's really important that we make sure that we take the first step to bring about change. And then, like in the Quran, I know in Surah Al-Ra'd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I don't change the conditions of people until they change themselves. So we need to do our part by voting and bringing about change ourselves, and not just saying, oh, my vote doesn't matter because there's so many people voting. It does matter. Go out and vote and make sure that you do voice your opinion and make sure that the community is at your heart when you're voting today.
Absolutely. And to that point, I think this is where it's exceptionally important that specifically these types of elections, all of a sudden your school that was here disappears. All of a sudden there's a new rule. All of a sudden, you don't get the same resources that you had. So, elections that are your local municipalities largely affect you in a very personal way, where large federal policies affect you, but maybe not as personal as your city council, school board, and others. And that's why it's very critical, especially Minneapolis and St. Paul, since both of them are largely one party run cities. You don't see a lot of differences in the political part. You almost have to really understand who these candidates are and what they stand for. I want to also note today, Minnesota continues to have an unremarkable success when it comes to Muslim candidates running for office. I still don't know the total in Minnesota, but we have a significant amount of Muslims running in elections in Minneapolis and St. Paul, in the suburbs. And this is a testament of the Minnesota Muslim community really being vanguards in the United States when it comes to political success and political victory. And I think that's something that I'm extremely, extremely proud of. And I think it's a testament of what's possible. So dadweynaha naga daawanaya Somali TV waad ku mahadsan tihiin. Maanta waa maalintii la codeynayay ee doorashada 2021 Minneapolis iyo St. Paul weliba gaar ahaan iyo degmooyinka kale. Doorasho aad iyo aad u weyn weeyaan. Qofkii aana weli cod bixin ha ka gaaro ilaa 8 weeyaan habeenimo. Shaqadu qofkii shaqeynaya hadda ama qofkii shaqo ku socda hadda, dowladdu waxay xaq u siinaysaa qofkaasi inuu shaqada ka soo imaado. Horta waa inaad la xiriirtid weeyaan shaqaala meesha ka shaqaysid, laakiin muddada intaad soo codeynaysid iyaga ayaa bixinaya. Waa si qof shaqeynayo kala tahay haddayna maalintaadii fasaxa ahayn. Marka xuquuqda qofka uu leeyahay ka mid tahay in maalinta la codeynayo la cod bixiyo qofka uu leeyahay. Marka talabaad, maanta waxyaabo badan ba runtii go'aan laga gaari doonaa. waxyaabahaasoo runtii saameyn weyn ku leh mujtamaca gaar ahaan Soomaalida ama mujtamaca dadka danyarta oo dhan. Marka insha Allah maanta waa doorasho muhiima weeyaan. Ha laga seexan doorashooyinkan weliban ana madaxweynaha la dooranay dadku waxa laga yaabaa aynay soo bixin, laakiin dadka soo baxa ayaa markaa runtii go'aanka gaara. Dadkaasaa markaa dhaliya runtii go'aanada lagu dhaqaaqiyo. Marka insha Allah, Kasim, any kind of final thoughts? I know you have to head off. I want to just give you a chance to say a few words about this election, but also I also want to be very mindful about elections are what I consider to be the first step of being participatory. The moment you elect somebody is critical. But if you don't engage those elected officials, your vote is almost not being exercised to its fullest extent. Can you talk a little bit about that? Today, let's say even the candidate you wanted didn't come in. You can still hold that person who's elected, holding them accountable. How can you do that? And what are some tips you have for that?
So again, I highly encourage you to get out and vote. It's a civil right duty. You have to do it. And again, if your candidate does not win, whoever is elected is a public servant who is serving the community, right? So you should have access to this person. You can always call their office. You can write letters to them. Do not be, if something is going on in your neighborhood, why are resources put into neighborhoods is because people call. If you look at nice neighborhoods, I remember when I was a council member, I had a resident call me about a bus stop. She said, at this bus stop, there's all this drug dealing going on. There's all these different things going on in that bus stop, and people get shot at this bus stop, and nothing is happening there. So I reached out to Metro Transit and asked about installing cameras at this bus stop. Metro Transit told me, no, there's no cameras available for bus stops in those areas. Lo and behold, I found out in a different neighborhood, nicer neighborhood, where there's a rapid bus stop, there is cameras at the bus stops. So the person who told me did not probably have right information. So I reached back out to Metro and said, hey, we have this bus stop where it's become a nuisance. I know there's cameras in your bus stops. Please do something about adding some safety measures to these bus stops that we had in my neighborhood. So most city council members and different politicians that you elect are very responsive to the needs of the community. And if you call and request and ask for different things in your neighborhood, they have the resources to make sure that what you need to be done will be done. But if you stay silent and you let different things happen in your neighborhood, that's why we have high rates of crime happening and different things happening in our neighborhoods, because nobody is saying anything. Nobody's calling the council member. Nobody's calling the sheriff in that area and asking for help.
That's so true. And I also want to add to that. There's a lot of people who just call the Somali elected officials, even though they don't represent them. So I want people to understand that you have elected officials in your own city, town, township, community, county, and if you got to get to know them, you got to get to know them. You have to meet them, and you have to make those demands. Even though you don't have a specific demand, let's say you don't have a bus stop you're worried about. You should still meet them. You should still get to know them. You should spend time to make sure that they visit you at your community. And in those moments, you should ask them to see what they're doing, what they're focusing on. Because every city, every town makes decisions on the budget, how they're going to spend your tax dollars, what they prioritize, what they don't prioritize. And if you don't sit at the table, then you're not going to be included at that table. You're not going to be thought about. You're not going to be considered. Decision-making happens every single day in every single city across the state of Minnesota and across the country. And it's people who speak up. And this is something that we have seen as a phenomenon where white women would call on the police to, just black men doing random things. But this concept of calling authorities to get something done it's part of that democracy. There's a lot of people who, obviously this is an abuse, but we see that. We see also people who abuse the government because they know no one else is calling. So they will call and they will move those cameras to this place, or they will move this to this. They will move resources from your neighborhood, from your own community. I know, for example, the park board in Minneapolis, you have areas that have, high concentration, a lot of children, and those swing sets look like they're from, the 1980s. And then you go to places in the suburbs and you're wondering, what kind of a playground this is. Decisions are made every single day about your life by these elected politicians. And your only chance you have to make an impact on those is now. Today, you have the most power. They don't have no power today. Today, the power is in the hands of every single citizen in the state and in this country. You have the power today. You also have the power tomorrow when you talk to them, when you call them, and you force them to take on the issues that you have. So, Kasim, any last words? I know you have to drop off here.
No, again, thank you, CARE Minnesota, for Get the Vote Out campaign. And so again, I'm telling everybody, myself and everyone that is out there listening, to get out and vote.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kasim. And then I'm going to play a short video and then we'll come right back. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. And I want everybody to get out there and vote.
It's important to vote this year because a lot is at stake.
And voting feels like my way to be able to bring about change.
This election gives American Muslims the opportunity to make a difference, as well as be part of the change.
Voting does bring about change. It's a right that you've been given, it's a privilege that we have, and it's something that we must exercise.
Remember, it's a privilege.
This is the smallest thing you can do as a citizen, is to go out and vote.
In short, this election is unique and historic. In the midst of one of the worst pandemics of our times, coupled with an economic downturn,
I would encourage all of us who do have the right to vote, the citizenship, go vote. It is an obligation on you to do. It is not a matter of a choice.
Shape tomorrow
by voting today.
inaan codeeyo aad ayay muhiim igu tahay anaga dhanna muhiim ayay noo tahay qaas ahaan sanadkan oo aan ku jirno dhibaatooyin badan waxaa kaloo jirto marka aad codeynaysid waxa laga yaabaa mashquul inaad tahay anaga oo dhan mashquul baan nahay ciyaal baan ma arkino wax baraynaa guryaha mashquul ku nahay laakiin waxaa jira waxyaabo na dhaafayo haddii aanan codkeena dhiibanin codkeena waa awood aan leenahay oo aan ku dooran doono hogaamiyayaashana hogaaminayo berito hadday ahaan lahayd bulshadeena iyo hadday ahaan lahayd federal levelkaba marka waxaan ku boorin lahaa
You know, most important thing is that I want people to know is like your responsibility is to go and vote. We'll worry about the results later, but right now our job is to go out there and make sure you vote. I know sometimes, as I said, the long may be longer or something, but believe me, when you get in there, and vote, it's worth it. So go out and vote and make a difference today.
صح maxaad u malaynaysaa natiijada inay ku dambaynayso
ما شاء الله si fiican bay ku dambaynaysaa boqolkiiba boqol
maxaad odhan lahayd dadka aan codayn maanta
dadka aan codayn waa inay codeeyaan oo waddanka jooga sharciga waa inay raacaan oo ay codeeyaan
maasha allah
waa ku qasban yihiinay barya maaha marka sidaasaan dadka kula talinayaa maadaama ay maraykan joogaan waa inay sharciga u hoggaansamaan baa loo baahan yahay halkay soo tag xasan han casoobini waddanka weyn soo sitin ma yihidaad سوي
هذا حسن ما عضيتي
وعضيتي
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله ما شاء الله
هيدي دتك
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله إلهي
وإن عدكنا ديبتان
ما شاء الله dadka ummadda Soomaalida ay daawanayso
ummadda Soomaalida waxaan ku warleenahay dhiibta codkiina dhiibta
ما شاء الله هذا رمي يسبدل وين عضينا
وين عضينا codkeena dhiibana
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. Jazakumullah khairan for all of those who's watching us on Somali TV. Please share the video with others. We have a couple of more hours left before the 2021 election is over. The 2020 election will ever be 8 p.m. today. We talked a little bit about all the different aspects of the election, and I want to speak to one particular one. Which is rank voting. I know there's some people just forget about that. So in Minneapolis and St. Paul, you have rank voting, which means you choose more than one candidate, and to be able to vote. That's the three options that you have. So I'll show this short video that I want to share. And it's the city of Minneapolis folks that are kind of explaining a little bit about rank choice voting. So watch this video shortly, and then I'll try to explain it. Marka waxaan ka hadlaynaa rank choice voting. Minneapolis St. Paul waxaa loo codeeyaa 3 qof doorashooyinka. Marka videogana sharaxas.
In most elections, you only vote for one candidate for each office. But in some elections, voters can rank 3 or
So as you can tell, ranked choice voting is a system of elimination based on who has the most votes and who's getting more votes through second ballots and third ballots. So rank vote choice amba sida loo kala soorayo doorashada Minneapolis St. Paul waxaad u codeyn kartaa 3 qof. Marka doorashada waxaa la rabaa qofka badinaya inuu 50% in ka badan helo. Marka haddii ay keeni waayaan dadkii u tartamayay, waxaa la reebayaa qofka ugu tira yar ama ugu cod yar. Kaasaa la fiirinayaa dadkii cod bixiyey yay doorteen booska labaad yay u doorteen. Saasaa markaa loo kala reebaya. Markii haddana dhammaata haddii la heli waayo qof 50kii dhaafay, 150 dhaafay, haddana kii ugu tira yaraabaa la reebaya. Kaasaa haddana dadkiisii la fiirinaya in ma aragtay dad kale loogu daro. Si nidaam saasaa lagu dhamaystirayaa ilaa laga helayo qof doorashada badiya. Marka taasi waa rank choice voting. Marka doorashada maanta waxyaabo badan baa runtii laga hadlayaa oo doorashada soo bixi doona. Maaha uun codeyn dad musharaxiina. Waxaa kaloo laga codeynaya arrimaha ku saabsan guriga kirada. Waxaa kaloo laga codeynaya arrimaha ku saabsan nabad sugidda ama booliiska, gaar ahaan Minneapolis. Nidaam cusub in la dejiyo. Iyo labada Minneapolis St. Paul waxaa laga hadlayaa in la sameeyo nidaam shuruud lagu adkeeyo dadka kirada bixiya si aadan kirada lagu kicin oo si nidaamsan marka kiradu ay loo badin karo laakiin ayna ahayn nidaam ma aragtay dadka kiraysanaya hal mar lagu kicin karo sixirkoodii ay bixinayaan bishiiba. Marka insha Allah intaasaan rabay yar faahfaahin kooban af Ingiriisiya Soomaaliya. But most of you, I think, I just wanted to again thank all of you who joined us and shared their messages on the chat. I see many of you have shared it. Today is a critical day. It's you know, it's not even the midterm elections, but it's the off-year elections. But it's a critical election for the state here in Minnesota. The largest cities are having a major election. Minneapolis and many other municipalities are voting. If you want basic information, where do you vote, how do you get that? We put all of that together for you. I shared this a little earlier. So if you go to our Care Minnesota website, you should be able to just catch a lot of that information right on our website. So if you just go to caremn.com, you should be able to get basic information there to be able to learn about where to vote and some of the questions. We talked a little earlier today about your rights as well. A lot of people just don't know that they can get off work to go vote. I know people say that, but sometimes people don't realize it's the law actually. So the law is on your side when it comes to voting rights. You can go and take time off to go vote if it's happening during your shift. And so people need to think about that. I just had a conversation with somebody who was I was buying something from, and he didn't even realize that he had that right. So a lot of people don't know. We are now at 5:30 here in Minneapolis. We have a couple more hours left. I know many people, this is the time when the kids are at home and you haven't voted yet. So this might be a good time to get out and vote. There's a last minute push to get folks to get into line. If you're in line before 8 p.m., you can stay in line. Minneapolis had 90% of the people still have yet to vote. This is, you know, even though unprecedented level for early voting, it's still only 10% of the electorate have actually voted in Minneapolis. So today we're hoping to get as many people to get out and vote in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and other jurisdictions, other cities and other counties, or other voting jurisdictions that are happening in the state of Minnesota. And you can get all of that information if you go to the State of Secretary website. But a shortcut we put all the links that you need to vote there to get all that information. We kind of explained the ranked choice voting as well. I know that's a little bit of a challenge for folks. How does it work? Do I have to submit everything? And so technically it's 3 opportunities, you know, if you first, second, and third. So if you just want to put first, you can do that. If you want to just put 2, you can do that. But obviously it's recommended to usually put all 3 candidates so that your best candidates can move forward. So that's, if your candidate moves forward, your vote still there. But if your candidate falls off, then your vote goes to the next person you think should get the vote from you. And that's kind of how ranked choice voting is based on. So walaalayaal waa muhiim weeyaan maanta doorashadani gaar ahaan dadweynaha ku degan labada magaaladooda mataanaha inay ka faa'iidaystaan oo codeeyaan codeyntuna waxyaabaha aan awood ku heli karno marka insha allah qofka hala codeeyo codeyntana waxaa ka dambeeya in xildhibaanada iyo dadka la doortay in ma aragtay lala fadhiisto oo la weydiisto in ay wax ka qabtaan dhibaatooyinka dadka mujtamaca saaran iyo maalgelin in la siiyo arrimaha ku saabsan dhibaatooyinka bulshadu ay hayaan marka insha allah waxaan arkayaa su-aalo dad soo gelgelinaya chatka waxaa muhiima runtii in dadku ay ka qayb qaataan doorashada maanta marka insha allah inaan la ilaawin inaan la dhayarsan doorashooyinkanna inta badan waxay kusoo afjarmaan dadka kasoo qayb gala marka mar walba dee mar xilliga doorashadu in la yidhaahdo doorashada gala waxaan u malaynaya dadku way fahamsan yihiin laakiinse waxaa loo baahan yahay xitaa doorashada inta la gelin in laga sii fikiro horta runtii waxaa jira sanadkan si aan caadi ahayn reer Minnesota mar walbaba Maraykanka waan ugu horeynaa markay noqoto muslimiinta u tartamaya doorashooyinka wax lagu farxa weeyaan dhalinyar badan baa soo sharaxday oo degmooyin badan iyo jagooyin kala duwan u tartamaysa iyaga oo rajeynaya sanadkan inay runtii isbedel weyn u keento dhinaca maaragtay dadka muslimiinta dadka danyarkaba marka taasna waxay u baahan yihiin codkiinii iyo inaad ka qayb qaadatiin si loo taageeri lahaa dadka xitaa musharaxiinta ah haddana codeyn runtii khasaare weyn ba adiga gaar ahaan ku tahay so it's unprecedented in Minnesota. I think Minnesota continues to be a beacon when it comes to Muslims running for office. You know, I think everyone knows the Congressman Keith Ellison when he made history as a congressman and now he's Attorney General. But the fact that so many Muslims are running in local elections is remarkable, and it's a testament of the fact that not only Muslims go and vote in the state, but there's also a great deal of confidence by the wider community who's not Muslim to see the Muslims as a net gain, an asset to this community, that their leadership is needed and their leadership is supported and trusted, and that's a very positive thing. I don't think we are seeing this across the country at all. This is very unique to Minnesota, and I think for all Minnesotans, particularly here in the Twin Cities, hats off to all of the allies and the communities out there who have seen and continue to reject bigotry and hatred, specifically targeting Muslim candidates. I know as you get out to the suburbs, there's been some Muslim candidates who have had their lawn signs and vandalized. And then unfortunately, this is the reality of some of the hate that's been happening. But today's a very powerful day for all Minnesotans and this country. There are powerful elections happening all over America, from governor races to everywhere, to local city council, park board, among other things. And so I think it's incredibly important that we take the time and opportunity to make sure we get out there. And particularly, as I keep repeating this point, you cannot use going to work as an excuse, because the law actually supports you to go to work and go to vote at the same time. So your employer should accommodate for you to get out and vote reasonably today. And so it would be essential that we take advantage of that. And to all of the candidates, as Kasim earlier mentioned, congratulations to all of them just to run. It's an incredible amount of work that you have to do to do that. And but it's important also community members elect the people that they will represent them in the most positive way. So election night in America, election night here in Minneapolis and St. Paul and across the state of Minnesota. It is an important day for every single one of us to get out and get our voices heard. Be a voter today. Be a voter today. I'm going to play the short video again, and I'll be right back after the video.
It's important to vote this year because a lot is at stake.
And voting feels like my way to be able to bring about change.
This election gives American Muslims the opportunity to make a difference, as well as be part of the change.
Voting does bring about change. It's a right that you've been given, it's a privilege that we have, and it's something that we must exercise.
Remember, it's a privilege.
This is the smallest thing you can do as a citizen, is to go out and vote.
In short, this election is unique and historic. In the midst of one of the worst pandemics of our times, coupled with an economic downturn,
I would encourage all of us who do have the right to vote, the citizenship, go vote. It is an obligation on you to do. It is not a matter of a choice.
Shape tomorrow
by voting today.
inaan codeeyo aad ayay muhiim igu tahay anaga dhanna muhiim ayay noo tahay qaas ahaan sanadkan oo aan ku jirno dhibaatooyin badan waxaa kaloo jirto marka aad codeynaysid waxa laga yaabaa mashquul inaad tahay anaga oo dhan mashquul baan nahay ciyaal baan ma arkino wax baraynaa guryaha mashquul ku nahay laakiin waxaa jira waxyaabo na dhaafayo haddii aanan codkeena dhiibanin codkeena waa awood aan leenahay oo aan ku dooran doono hogaamiyayaasha na hogaaminayo berito hadday ahaan lahayd bulshadeena iyo hadday ahaan lahayd federal level kaba marka waxaan ku boorin lahaa
You know, most important thing is that I want people to know is like your responsibility is to go and vote. We'll worry about the results later, but right now our job is to go out there and make sure you vote. I know sometimes, as I said, the long may be longer or something, but believe me, when you get in there, and vote, it's worth it. So go out and vote and make a difference today.
صح maxaad u malaynaysaa natiijada inay ku dambaynayso
maasha allah si fiican bay ku dambaynaysaa boqolkiiba boqol
maxaad odhan lahayd dadka aan codayn maanta
dadka aan codayn waa inay codeeyaan oo waddanka jooga sharciga waa inay raacaan oo ay codeeyaan
maasha allah
waa ku qasban yihiinay barya maaha marka sidaasaan dadka kula talinayaa maadaama ay maraykan joogaan waa inay sharciga u hoggaansamaan baa loo baahan yahay halkay soo tag xasan han casoobini waddanka weyn soo sitin ma yihiin سوي
هذا الحسن ما عضيتي
وعضي دي
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله ما شاء الله
هيدي دتك
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله إلهي وإن عدكنا ديبتان ما شاء الله dadka ummadda Soomaalida ay daawanayso ummadda Soomaalida waxaan ku warleenahay dhiibta codkiina ma sha Allah hadaan rabno isbedel wayna codeynaa
wayna codeynaa codkeena dhiibana
Thank you for staying with us. And for those who joined us now, I wanted to remind you again, today is election day in Minnesota. As you watch this video, it's important to get out and vote today. And so we have a link in the chat. I'll put it up again. You can go to that. And if you need basic information as to, where to vote, and especially for those who are in the suburbs who are not aware what's happening in their city, you can go right now and see what particular elections happening in our city. I know there's been a lot of news coverage about Minneapolis and St. Paul, but there are a lot of levies and school boards and municipal races all over the state of Minnesota. So make sure you look into to see what race is happening in your neck of the woods and your community. Elections are exceptionally important. We have to come out and vote. We have to take opportunity. It's a participatory system. I like this poster from lovevoteandrise.com. It talks about you having a choice. The choice is democracy, or don't care, your choice. So if you choose democracy, you have to get out and vote today and make it a priority today. I know our team has been, we've had a lot of volunteers from CARE Minnesota that have been helping folks, just talking to them over the phone, texting them for the last weeks, and we've reached thousands of people in the state of Minnesota, and particularly here in the Twin Cities. And so letting them know about what the election and some basic information about what's on the ballot. So we want to encourage everybody to get out and vote, exercise your right. It's exceptionally important that we do that, and elections do matter. Every vote counts, and elections do matter. And it's exceptionally even more important now to be able to do that. For those who are watching on Somali TV, I want to thank you all, and dadweynaha naga daawanaya Somali TV, meel kastoo aad joogtiin. Doorashadii Maraykanka maanta ayuu ku eeg yahay, oo maanta meel walba laga dooranayo, gaar ahaan degmooyinka hoose magaalada, iyo waxaa la dooranayaa dadkii maamulayay iskuullada oo kale, dadkii maamulayay park boardska amba xadiiqadaha, iyo runtii orodo kala duwan oo Maraykanka ka dhacaya, doorashooyin kala duwan. Marka maanta oo kale aad iyo aad bay muhiim tahay, gaar ahaan reer Minneapolis iyo St. Paul. Waxaa la dooranayaa duq cusub, waxaa la dooranayaa guddi cusub, waxaa la dooranayaa iskuulka boardka, dad baa laga dooranaya St. Paul. Marka waa maalin aad iyo aad u muhiima oo loo baahan yahay mujtamacu inay ka faa'iidaystaan. Waxaa looga fadhiisan arrinkan ku saabsan shaqada. Dad badan baa dhahay shaqan tegaya ama shaqa igu taagan. Maraykanka xaq waxaad u leedahay waqtigaa shaqada aad tegaysid in aad ku codayn kartid, si nidaamsan aad ku codayn kartid. Marka meeshaad ka shaqaysin ay ku siiyaan fasax intaad soo codaynaysid, ayna lacagtana kugu socoto. Marka waa paid time weeyaan inaad ku tagtid oo soo shaqaysid. Marka insha Allah saasaan rabaa inaan kusoo gabagabeeyo. I want to conclude our last minute push here. It's almost close to 6. We're about 2 hours left, 2 hours and 15 minutes left before the polls close. So get out there. Don't wait. Please share the video with others. We'll end off the program with the video that we started with. Another reminder of the importance of why all of us need to get out and vote today.
It's important to vote this year because a lot is at stake.
And voting feels like my way to be able to bring about change.
This election gives American Muslims the opportunity to make a difference, as well as be part of the change.
Voting does bring about change. It's a right that you've been given, it's a privilege that we have, and it's something that we must exercise.
Remember, it's a privilege. This is the smallest thing you can do as a citizen, is to go out and vote.
In short, this election is unique and historic. In the midst of one of the worst pandemics of our times, coupled with an economic downturn,
I would encourage all of us who do have the right to vote, the citizenship, go vote. It is an obligation on you to do. It is not a matter of a choice.
Shape tomorrow by voting today.
inaan codeeyo aad ayay muhiim igu tahay, anaga dhanna muhiim ayay noo tahay, qaas ahaan sanadkan oo aan ku jirno dhibaatooyin badan. Waxaa kaloo jirto marka aad codaynaysid, waxaa laga yaabaa mashquul inaad tahay. Anaga oo dhan mashquul baan nahay, ciyaal baan ma arkino wax baraynaa, guryaha mashquul ku nahay, laakiin waxaa jira waxyaabo na dhaafayo haddii aanan codkeena dhiibanin. Codkeena waa awood aan leenahay oo aan ku dooran doono hogaamiyayaashana hogaaminayo berito, hadday ahaan lahayd bulshadeena iyo hadday ahaan lahayd federal levelkaba. Marka waxaan ku boorin lahaa,
you know, most important thing is that I want people to know is like your responsibility is to go and vote. We'll worry about the results later, but right now our job is to go out there and make sure you vote. I know sometimes, as I said, the long may be longer or something, but believe me, when you get in there, and vote, it's worth it. So go out and vote and make a difference today.
صح maxaad u malaynaysaa natiijada inay ku dambaynayso
ما شاء الله si fiican bay ku dambaynaysaa
ما شاء الله.
boqolkiiba boqol
maxaad odhan lahayd dadka aan codayn maanta
dadka aan codayn waa inay codeeyaan oo
صح
waddanka jooga
صح
sharciga waa inay raacaan
صح
oo ay codeeyaan
ما شاء الله صح
waa ku qasban yihiinay barya maaha
صح
marka sidaasaan dadka kula talinayaa
ayaadir
maadaama ay maraykan joogaan waa inay sharciga u hoggaansamaan
صح
baa loo baahan yahay halkay soo tag xasan han casoobini waddanka weyn soo tilmayhidaad see weeye
adeer xasan ma codaysay
waa codeeyay
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله ما شاء الله
dadka
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله ilaahay
waa inaad codkiina dhibataan
ما شاء الله
oo
hadda dadka ummadda Soomaalida ay daawanayso
cabitaan ummadda Soomaalida waxaan ku leenahay dhiibta codkiina dhiibta
ما شاء الله haddaan rabno isbedel wayna codaynaa
waa inaynu codaynaa codkeena dhiibanaa
you